Live stream check, live stream check. Three, two, one, 3, 2, 1. No, not getting anything. It's not coming through speakers, is it? No, it's picking it up on the live stream. It's just not coming through speakers.
Testing, I'm working.
Oh, you're working. There you go, you're working now. So you push that one back in there for me.
Did one of them come loose then?
Let me do it for you. So you're fine.
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah. So this is a test of a Have You Say microphone, just to prove they're all working.
Right, good evening all. Are we good to go? Okay. Councillor Goss, you have to attend and stay at Cabinet until the bitter end. So if you close the laptop and turn off the social media. Thank you. Right, welcome to members of the public and councillors. The usual reminder that in the event of emergency, follow us, but there's no practice alarms planned. If it does, evacuate the town hall, down the main staircase or back staircase to High Street, then to the car park behind the town hall. I'm not expecting disturbance, so we shan't worry about that, but we will retreat if required. This meeting is being streamed live over the internet on the council's YouTube channel and will be available to listen to afterwards. Use of mobile phones and other devices, including cameras by visitors, is welcomed, but I remind myself as well as my colleagues that we should use them discreetly. Perhaps remember to turn off sound and not use voice or camera flash. Speakers are reminded that microphones can be used at all times. Let me introduce those listening and those present to the work of the Cabinet. The Cabinet's the main executive body of the Council, responsible for day-to-day decision-making on all Council services, makes recommendations to full Council on major policy issues and on the Council's budget. Cabinet is made up of 8 councillors, each around the table, each of whom is responsible for a particular range of services. I introduce myself and ask colleagues to do the same, including those officers at the front table. Welcome to the others in reserve. My name is David King, I'm leader of the council. I'll start, Chris, at your end.
Evening all. Councillor Chris Pearson. I'm responsible for economic growth and transformation.
Councillor Jocelyn Law, responsible for communities and public protection.
Anna D'Alessandro, Interim Chief Finance Officer in Section 151.
Richard Clifford, Democratic Services Manager.
Pam Donnelly, Chief Executive.
Julie Young, Deputy Leader of the Council, responsible for housing.
Lee Scaldis, Cabinet Member for Culture, Heritage and the Environment.
Good evening, Councillor Mark Corey, portfolio holder for Assets and Resources and ward member for Wivenhoe.
Martin Goss, Marlin Ward, Neighbourhoods, Leisure and Waste, portfolio holder.
Good evening, Councillor Andrea Luxford-Vaughan, responsible for planning and sustainable development and ward member for Wivenhoe.
Thank you, Andrea. Should just note for the record that the third of our statutory officers, which is the monitoring officer, Andrew Weavers, is unfortunately unwell tonight, so can't join us. Okay, so we'll turn to the agenda.
There are no urgent items, Chair.
Thank you. No urgent items. Declarations of interest. A reminder to colleagues to declare them if you have such. None. Minutes of the previous meeting. They looked very fine record as always. Thank you. Colleagues content? Indeed. Thank you very much. In which case we go to have your say. We often have a raft of visitors, but just the one tonight. Very pleased to see you, Sir Bob. Please come forward. You know the process inside out.
Thank you, Chairman. I've asked if I can speak in support of the Office of Mayor, because I think events need to be clarified. But before I do that, when I was reading the papers for tonight on page 45, procurement, I hope you can confirm this statement: the council will, where appropriate, engage with suppliers who support the local economy as being an existing policy and not a new policy. In other words, it should already be happening. I mention that just to get it on the record. Chairman, I've noticed 5 events now where the Mayor of Colchester has been sidelined. Now, there's a difference between the position of Mayor, first citizen, non-political. He or she is the person who is the first citizen. And there's a difference between the office of Mayor and that of Leader of the Council, Chair or the policy holder, Cabinet Member for Housing, or the Member of Parliament. Now, my knowledge of Colchester Council spread over more than 60 years, that the Mayor always, unless there are exceptional circumstances, always carries out public duties where it comes to the official opening of housing developments and so on. And I first became aware that this was not happening over at Silverband Close at Boxted. I think that the Mayor was Councillor Leslie Scott Boutell. I was there in my role as Chairman of the Boxted Methodist Silverband because I'd suggest the name Silverband Close to help part of the band's 120th anniversary. I was surprised the Mayor wasn't there, and then I was equally surprised when the official opening was done by the housing portfolio and the Leader of the Council, with no Mayor present. And then I inquired of the ward councillors, they knew nothing about it. Inquired of the parish council, they knew nothing about the event either. So the parish council and the ward council have been sidelined. I thought, well, this is just one of these things that happens. But then something similar happened with Elfrida House. Something happened similar with an event held in the Mayor's Parlour, to which the Mayor was not invited. I noticed that the Chesterville housing development, both the housing portfolio and the Mayor was there, but I've no idea who actually did the opening. But I think the one that causes me the greatest concern, they're all concerned, but the one of the greatest concern, it was the official opening of St Nicholas Square, where the Mayor was not even invited. The Mayor should have done the opening. That is what the Mayor does. The Mayor was not there. And the photograph in the paper and the report indicated the official opening was done by yourself and the Member of Parliament. Well, in 18 years, I was never invited, nor would I expect to be invited to open any council development. That is a matter for the council, and that is the matter for the Mayor. So for as long as we've got a Mayor for another 3 years, we don't know what's going to happen after that. I would just ask that those who issue invitations for the opening of council developments, the Mayor of Colchester does it. The Mayor of Colchester does it. There are differences between the role of Mayor, Leader of the Council, Member of Parliament, and I've been all 3.
Thank you, Bob. I think we've covered this before, but Julie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thanks, Sir Bob. You brought this up with me directly in the past. I can't really comment on some of the events. Some of those are historical because they are before this current administration was put together in May. But certainly for my part, I made sure that Councillor Lilly was invited to Chesterwell. As you noted from the press coverage, I did hold the scissors. He did hold the big key. But, you know, I do think it's important, and the Mayor does get invited along. Who actually cuts the ribbon, you know, I'm reasonably relaxed about. But on that particular occasion, Mike was pleased to be there. We noted the fact that Alistair Day Way is on Chesterwell, much respected former planning officer of this authority. I think the Mayor definitely should be invited along. I checked it with Andrew Weavers in terms of protocol because I wasn't actually clear what the protocol is. His view is that your interpretation precedes the cabinet system in terms of it should always be the Mayor that is officially opening things. So I think there's been a bit of a mixed approach. I certainly opened things when I was Mayor of Colchester, but I think there's been a sort of flexible approach in recent years to that. But certainly anything that I'm involved with in opening, I will make sure the current Mayor is invited along. I'm quite happy to share the scissors with whoever that Mayor is. I don't know what others feel about it. Leader, I can't comment on the invites for St Nicholas Square. I think a number of us failed to get an invite to that occasion. I think the invites were issued by the bid, but I think, you know, we should have been invited along to that, and I'm sorry we weren't.
Sir Bob.
Chairman, the protocol of the Mayor of Colchester opening council developments has continued long after the setting up of the cabinet system. It's only in the last 2 or 3 years that this has happened. First time I became aware of it, I've mentioned it was at Boxted, and there are 5 examples I've mentioned. I think Colchester Borough Homes ought to be told, I know they're semi-detached in the council, they should be told that the Mayor of Colchester does the official opening. It's always happened, Chairman. This has changed recently, the last 2 or 3 years. And why the Colchester bid should issue invitations, why didn't the council issue them? Why wasn't the Mayor invited to do the official opening? I mean, who the hell are the Colchester bid? They are not part of the democratic process. People elect councillors to make decisions, and the Mayor has held office since 1636. So let's get it right. The Mayor has always done the official openings. It's only in the last 2 or 3 years it's changed.
All right, Bob, just to round this off. So we hear you clearly. You know, I think it's helpful you've raised it. Thank you for doing that. I just observe that there are many things that are going on, and the Mayor can't neither always make them, and sometimes it is appropriate that another might be in the lead. But you've raised this important point. We care about it, and thank you for doing that. Well, that's another interesting conversation. Mark, thank you. Mark.
Just on the one other point Sir Bob mentioned, just in case Sir Bob isn't here later, on the procurement strategy, localism is very much firmly within the policy as it is now, and it's just ensuring we continue to do that, because it has a number of economic benefits, but also environmental as well, in terms of getting things as local as possible. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed. All right, in which case we go to item 7.1, Greater Essex Local Government Reorganisation. We've got a paper here from Andrew Weavers. I'll just give you a few my own remarks. I really would welcome the views of Cabinet. We are in an important moment, a transformational moment, it's long, slow and drawn out, but if you go back to a year ago, this was not on the cards. It emerged last autumn and got confirmed into the new year, and it's been a very intense and challenging process ever since that will lead us to making a decision after full council later this month. And what we have here is a capture of the key points and where we stand. And we have 4 business cases in preparation. We have had one that's been shared, the case for 5, for those who track this, as referred to in the paper. And we have the others in various stages of development, pretty close, most of them, but not going to be available to either cabinet members or the public until into the end, at the end of this week at best, and early next week in the main. This will be a very tight and difficult process for those who want to really dig into each of the relative merits of the business cases. My own take has always been that we share with members as we go, and we inform and enable a productive conversation, which we have. But if you take the essentials of many hundreds of pages, that's what's already been developed and out there, we come down to that need to make a decision. And this paper acknowledges that our starting point was the initial view of full council, which we as the cabinet have overseen and taken forward with the sterling work of our chief exec and other senior officers, including Anna here today. This has been deep work, cross ethics, much of it in a good spirit, which is helpful when we look to what will really matter, which will be the eventual decision, not our making, has to be made in Whitehall, and then what's going to be a very compressed and challenging time, which is the transition from the current structure of local government into the new unitary structure for Essex. And of course this is happening elsewhere across the country, so we're not the only ones going through this intense and driven process. But what we have here is a capture of where we stand against that starting point of a preference for 5 on the evidence, which we tested and shared, but without being able to see much of the comparators. We contributed to all of the processes we've been involved in, and as I say, we've shared where we can. So here it is, not quite the final knockings, here to Cabinet, before we go through a couple more steps and then to full council. So I really would welcome your independent views. I'll start with Mark, then go to Andrea, and then Julie.
Thank you, Leader. This is another helpful step along the way. We've had many helpful updates from you and from Pam as the Chief Executive. So I want to start by thanking you for this and for the work that's gone on. I voted clearly when I had a chance at Essex County Council to not go ahead at pace with the LGR, so that is on record. I do believe unitary authorities are a positive way forward, but I think the efforts, time and everything going into it show how complex this is, and at such a pace I do worry. But I have confidence in you and the officers who are working on this to get the best outcome for the residents of Colchester, and I back a bid for 5 unitaries as a result. I want to praise the work being done on the 5 unitaries because it has been transparent. We have been updated along the way. It has been based on fact and evidence and logic, looking at the data, the finances and the impact on residents, and not political whims and changes within the bid as and when it suits. We have put forward what we feel has been logical, and we've worked to the data that has been available through the different representatives we've brought in as consultants. So yeah, thank you to you and Pam. There is a stark difference between what I have seen as an Essex County Councillor from Essex County Council with their 3 unitary bid. Sadly, and I just think the adult and professional way would be to share the information as much as possible. Whichever bid ends up winning, we need to understand which one government wants to go with and why. And if we were to have transparency, as we have had with the 5 unitary bid, that would help us all. So I do think the 5 unitary bid is most advanced in terms of offering us the answers to the questions, as many answers as we can have. There's still questions that are unanswerable, to do with debts, for example, and how we go on to share, to do with housing, which we'll talk about later. So still some unknowns, but one of the best ways to tackle those unknowns is to work together with the possible partners we will have. And that's, again, another area where you and Pam and the team should be praised, because working with Tendring and Braintree, I'm really pleased with the work that has been done there and the approach that we have. We have a really good partnership and trust building there that has been going on for quite some months, and that means we can work together. We can look to see how we can work on assets and estates, as Chris Pearson and I have talked about in our briefings, where we can get the best for the people of our wider North Essex area. One other person I want to just thank is Neil Jarvie in Anna's team in finance, who came in to work within finance and immediately was taken to work on LGR, and the way that he puts forward the information is so clear and professional, dispassionate, to the facts only, and he has helped us come to some good conclusions. So those are my short beliefs, and I praise the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea.
Yeah, unlike you Essex councillors, I didn't have a choice in what we're doing. If I had, I wouldn't have supported it either. I feel very much in the same boat as the public, although I probably know a little bit more about what's going on. Although I just know what all the different options might be and not actually what we'll end up with, which is frustrating. I appreciate it's a process we have to go through and we're doing it diligently. But at the end of the day, if you're out of control of what the future holds, it's best not to get too upset about it and just wait until the government decides what they're going to do with us. And at that point, that's where I'm looking forward to, that we can start focusing back on the day job. Because obviously, at the moment, the team responsible for looking at this have got some very short deadlines to hit. But the rest of us just want to know what's coming in the future and where we need to focus our energies and what we need to do to get ready for it. And I think some certainty that we could share with the public will also be a relief, because I've only met one person outside of this room that actually knows anything about devolution, or I've met people that think they know about devolution and absolutely don't. And there's no point in trying to correct the public when we actually still don't know ourselves what's happening. And I may be coming from a different perspective to others, but at the moment I really can't see many positives in it. But good luck, and thank you for keeping us updated.
Thank you. If colleagues will bear with me, I'll just go round. We've got just about every hand up, but I'll go to Lee, if I might, and then Julie, and we'll work our way around.
Thank you, Leader. And to echo Councillor Corey, I think the information has been really helpful. We get an update every week, sometimes even Saturday morning, so from yourself. So it shows how dedicated you are, making sure that all councillors are kept updated with these really significant changes that we are going to see in local government. I think the 5 option clearly makes the most sense, not just financially, but also democratically. Even with that 5 model, we will be one of the largest councils in the country. If we were to go down to a 4 or 3, would be even larger. And people do want to feel that their voice is heard. And my feeling is, if you went down to any fewer, people don't feel they have that local connection. It's likely that Colchester would be the main hub of any future plans if we had the 5. But we had to take into account that people in Tendring and Braintree might not always feel their voices heard, because it'll most likely be based here. And any larger would be very worrying. It'd be interesting to know in the future what's going to happen with parish councils as well, because they're an important local voice and they play an important part in local democracy as well. And as a county councillor as well, we haven't had much information from county council. For me, I think that their model for 3 is political, which is their prerogative, but I don't think it's the best way to go, especially when the leader of Essex County Council regularly talks about how he supports devolution. I don't see having a council of 750,000 residents being devolution. So there are questions of that. So 5, I think, is definitely the way to go for Essex. I mean, personally, my own personal opinion would be that districts run everything as is, and that would be more local, but we're not in that position. That's not what government wants. So 5, we have a good relationship with Tendring and Braintree. It's an economic corridor as well, so it makes sense all round. So yeah, thank you to all the officers and everyone who's played a part in putting this together.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what has been said, so I won't repeat that. I think because we hit the ground running here in North East Essex, that has paid enormous dividends. And to make things work, it's about good relationships, isn't it? And I think the fact that we responded rapidly to this and started meeting with Tendring and Braintree has really been beneficial, because we've been at this now for several months, and we've got into a good place. And we've actually started to look at some of the big topics that need to be looked at. We've heard from the business sector, for example, and we've started those liaison meetings. So the board has started to move forward with the next transition of work. I support the 5, as others do. As Lee says, it still makes us one of the biggest unitary authorities in the country. We do not want to be any bigger than 500,000. I think that's the limit for us. But we'll have to see what opportunities arise as a result of this change. It's the biggest change in 50 years. But we're going to have to really dig into data to work out and our predictions about how we meet services going forward. And I think with the work we've been doing with health, we're in a really good place actually, in a much better place actually than a lot of parts of Essex. We're much more developed and advanced with our work with health, because we know that Tendring will bring forward huge demand in terms of adult social care and also for children's services as well. And we need to work really hard about how we accommodate very vulnerable people going forward. So I also want to pay tribute to the officers that have worked really hard up to now. I'm afraid there's more to come. So I think as members we need to be mindful of the impact it is having on our staff, and the time that it's been invested in doing that, whereas you've got the day job to do at the same time. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Julie. Jocelyn and then Chris.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'd like to begin really by thanking the officers, by thanking Pam, our Chief Executive, Anna and the finance team for all the officers involved in all the work, and also for the really effective way you shared that information very clearly with us, and that's in terms of leadership, team, and also David as well. You've been very good at keeping us updated through weekends as well. But you've shared all the information really, I think it's important, with members across the council. So I think that all members feel involved. We've had regular briefings. And I think it's really important because government processes anyway, I think, are difficult for sort of residents to always sort of comprehend. It might not be top of their list of things to be interested in. But, you know, obviously we get asked questions by members of the public and residents. And I think it's really helpful that we're having such a good wide amount of information shared with us. That helps us keep the people who are going to be impacted, you know, informed. And also, you know, I think I've found it very useful to have the regular information sharing and briefings on aspects. For example, Julie has touched on social care, and that's something I'm always very concerned about because that can be such a cost pressure. But if you can get that and health right, you can do a lot with prevention and really avoid a lot of problems later, sort of, and create healthier, communities. So I'm encouraged by the work that Pam has been able to share with us. that has shown that with the unitary authorities, there will be scope for the local areas to really be able to shape those services. And to finish, really, I'd like to say that I also support the 5 unitary model because I think, as others have said, it means that Colchester is still able to be close enough without being too far removed to too large a population as a unitary. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. I would just like to echo my thanks to you and to Pam and to the rest of the senior team, including Anna. And it's not just our senior team, but also all of those staff who are supporting our senior team to undertake what's happening at a time that must be a bit disconcerting because the future is unknown. That said, I feel that as a council, we have been very good at keeping everyone, that's officers and members, as up to date as we possibly can with what's happening, what the proposals are, what the potential look of Essex local authorities is going to be in the not too distant future. And I know from talking to councillors from elsewhere, and certainly when I was chairing the Governance and Audit Committee and going to regional meetings of other audit chairs, one or two from Essex were saying to me, we look at Colchester's website to find out what's going on because we don't know. So I think we've been very good at doing that, and I want to thank you, Leader, and Pam and the rest of the team for doing so. I will just say that 30 years ago, I would have been quite happy to see the end of Essex County Council. And I was fairly heavily involved at the time with the devolution that involved Southend and Thurrock. And although it appeared to be fairly complicated to begin with, ultimately it didn't end up being all that complicated. Both authorities went off. They both had their issues, both had some teething troubles, but both managed to take on board responsibility for social care, for education, for library, for all the other things that County Hall was previously doing for them, and mostly successfully. So I think we should be mindful of that experience within the County of Essex and recognise that, you know, we will get there. I'm still to be convinced whether 3, 4 or 5 most purpose authorities is the way forward. So I'm keeping an open mind on that. But I know that the majority view within the council at the moment is for the 5 authority model, and I will certainly support that if that's the way we end up going.
Thank you. That's a very thoughtful walk around the table, if I can put it that way. I don't know whether either Pam or Anna would like to say anything before we close the item. Pam.
I think it's only fair, thanks for the opportunity, Leader, to thank Southend. Southend have been exemplary in their partnership working, in their leadership of the Case for 5, and in their ability to collaborate fully with the other districts and cities and boroughs in Essex. And thank you all for the thanks you've expressed for me and my team, and of course David. But I don't think it would be right for me not to give credit to the team at Southend and the leadership of Colin Ansell and his team. I think one of the reasons why we're there with the Case for 5 right now is because of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I too would like to thank Neil. I think he's been great. The day he started, I said, well, you know all that work we're going to do on N4 and the budget, well, that's just going to have to wait. And I was so grateful to have him back, I have to say, doing work on fees and charges, which is what I'm desperate for him to do. But he's great, and I've worked with him in the past, and he's just got a calm nature about him, which is really, really helpful. and great at synthesising huge amounts of data. The amount of data we've had to look at in a short period of time has been significant. And thank you to all of Cabinet who recognises that. You know, it has been quite a lot of work at a time when we're trying to set the budget, but part of our role. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, so just putting all this together, I would say, because it'd be right to say, that we have passed on our appreciation to our partners. I always think of Kevin Bentley on this, because Kevin has been in a number of respects spot on. Whatever our disagreements about the handling of the model and the change, the late change from one option to another and all the rest of it, he's always seen, and I'll take him at his word, that the way we have to work together across Essex has to be one which is an eye on the decision from others and then transition and implementation. So against the challenge, I think collectively across Essex we've done pretty well. The fallings out, we had some very rocky few weeks early in the process, but we got past that, and people, from my perspective and Pam's, have got on pretty well. And it's actually, I tell you what it shows you, is you can work across boundary, it's a surprise, and you can work across party, and you can get to know people that you've not got to know. I remember ringing around every single leader when I had to take the chair at LC for just to sort of see where people were, to see who would take the call. Most of them did, pleased to say. But we've moved on a long way, and a lot of the credit in this business case goes to Daniel as the leader and to his chief exec and senior team. But it is a collective exercise, and it does give us real hope. And to Chris's remarks earlier about, you know, a reminder, Thurrock and the South End, there'll be something there to critique always, but against the big tests of social care, their cost effectiveness and the quality of it, they score really well. And they support that wider case that is embedded in and reflected in what we've been able to see in the case for 5, which is there is a prospect of providing a better service at an effective cost. That's going to be no easy thing. It takes some years to deliver, because we can see examples across the country, as well as those 2 unitaries hived off under your stewardship, Chris. So looking back, it helps us look forward, and I think it's really important that we take this into, if we can, into a productive conversation in full council in the middle of September, because we are going to have to look ahead into the murky world of politics. Whoever might be running the local authorities, we are the people that, with our compatriots in North Essex, will help set the scene. We here, around this table with our counterparts, will influence the shape of them by what we do now. And Julie's absolutely right. You know, the start we made, which is a collective credit, offers a real prospect. And I would like to, as we all do, take it down to the resident. That's what we're here for. And if we deliver some of the health changes that nationally are accepted and needed, Mark, you know, you're involved in this, and from another angle, more prevention, more local care, all of that, then we change some lives, or even better, help people change them for themselves. So there's a lot to look forward to, apart from loads of work that we will need to manage alongside the day job, which was rightly referred to by Andrea. So thank you all for your observations. I think anybody listening to this, some will hear, you know, a rich picture of people who understand what we're seeking to do, and that we're doing it in the right spirit, which I hope will give us the best prospect of setting ourselves up for whatever is the decision made by Whitehall. All right, look, thank you very much indeed. Anything else from anybody else? No, in which case we're asked to note the contents of this report. I think we've clearly done that. Thank you. We go on to the next item, 8.1, the State of the Nation. And Philip, would you, as the head of Colchester Borough Homes, come forward and set the scene, and then Councillor Julie Young will pick up from that. Thank you. Julie, would you like to perhaps set the scene for Philip? My apologies.
You can't get the staff, can you?
Can't.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased to introduce this item It's one of the most important things this authority does, provide housing. And we all know how important having a decent home is to the quality of people's lives. And that's why this is so important that we capture and shape the agenda and the future of social housing here in Colchester. I welcome the fact that we're having these regular updates, and there's an awful lot of change in housing, probably unprecedented level of change in housing, probably since the Second World War actually, because I think successive governments have kind of not had the razor-like focus on housing that this government is actually putting on housing, and they have high aspirations and we have high aspirations. There's an awful lot of change, as I said. This report captures that change, and we have challenges about how we meet those changes going forward. But we have a really robust process, and I wouldn't want anybody listening to this not to understand how important and how we are addressing the scrutiny of the housing revenue account going forward. Just like all of us, or most of us, we borrow money to buy houses, to provide a home for ourselves. And the business plan that's been put together and been developed with the support of industry experts with Savills means that we have a sustainable and viable business plan that this authority can look forward for the next 30 years to delivering that against. We look to build and acquire more housing because we know the desperate need for additional homes that we face and how many people we've got living in temporary accommodation. I won't steal Philip's thunder. We've got the expert in the room in Philip, and I look forward to hearing from you and speaking to this paper. This is another paper to note, but I think it absolutely captures what we should be focusing on in this authority.
Thank you, Julie. Philip, please.
Thank you, and good evening. I will just introduce it rather than going through everything in detail, but the report sets out the government's announcements at and since the 11th of June spending review. Just to echo a comment from the portfolio holder, an observation from me is that the policy consultations and changes announced, I would ordinarily expect to see over the course of 3 or 4 years, and they came over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. I think it shows, as the portfolio holder said, the pace of change in the social housing sector at the moment. Several of the changes in the report have material implications for the City Council's housing, some very positive, but actually some that we will need to track very carefully. As I say, I won't go through the reports in detail, but just to highlight that responses to the consultations on the Decent Home Standard, the rent convergence and minimum energy efficiency standards have now been submitted. That's been in consultation with the portfolio holder, and my thanks to the portfolio holder for that. And each of the responses has sought to protect the interests of social housing tenants in Colchester and the social housing sector as a whole. Where the policy changes such aspects of rent increases have been confirmed, then they've been incorporated into the approved HRA business plan. Where they're consultations, they will only be incorporated once we know the outcomes of those consultations. Section 14 of the report does set out some potential financial implications from those consultations. What I can do before I stop is provide assurance that the City Council is in a very strong position in respect of both the new electrical safety proposals and in respect of the minimum energy efficiency standard. I'll stop there and open up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Chris.
Thank you. As Julie's already remarked, we're in a situation where, fingers crossed, we're going to see more social housing developed in this country than has been done in decades. Now, just looking at the figures, in fact, social housing has halved in the last 20 years to less than 2 million across England, Scotland and Wales. And at the end of the 70s, a third of the population lived in social housing. So that just shows you how things have changed so significantly. But we know that there continues to be a need for both families and for individuals who, for whatever reasons, find that they need social housing in order to have a decent home. So I am very pleased that this council has gone through a detailed review of its housing revenue account and arrived at a view that it can again start to invest in council housing, and that's a sustainable business plan going forward for the next few decades.
Thank you. Colleagues? No? Okay. Well, then I'd like to thank you again, Philip, and the team. And this is a very personal piece of work, but you know, it's a collective as well. And it's an excellent capture for anybody who wants to watch that moving feast that counts as policy, consultation, implementation, and consequence. And the latter, of course, matters, whether it's for the lives of people or for the viability of the business case. And it will be only right, and I'll see if Anna would like to offer a remark here about viability at the moment, because that's a subject which we had nearly an hour and a half on last night, both in looking at the Savills model and in conclusions to be drawn. There's been some public comments which suggesting, despite our agreement to it, that it's not viable. As it stands, it is. Isn't that right, Philip? And as shown last night, there is a sophistication behind the model that's not always understood by both some member colleagues or indeed, and this is fair enough, the public, because of the complexity. But we can only invest if we can secure funds by whatever means, and the model and the approach that we were shown last night by yourself and our Savills independent experts who serve, I think it's 41 councils across England, and it seems to be serving well, really set this out in a very useful and I think assurance providing way. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to publicly say a thank you to them, and thank you to you for taking us all as members through the challenge and understanding and leaving us better placed. But it'd be right to put on the record too that the future does depend on some very key assumptions staying where they are at this time or moving in the right direction. Now, we will have to have a very close monitoring brief on housing. The government changes policies in ways we don't expect. If it changes in ways we think they might, as with rent convergence, then opportunities for further investment will or may arise. I think we just need that context into the record. And is there anything you would like to offer in terms of your own sense of the viability of our approach to housing in the context of the wider budget?
Leader, I believe we approach the budget setting process for housing the way we approach all of our budget setting for the entirety of the council. We have a plan, we have parameters within which we work, and we do our best to monitor with those within the parameters, risk mitigation, and we have lots of performance information that we use to monitor the performance of that financially. And so I feel comfortable that we're doing absolutely everything we can. Can we do more? Of course we can. And Philip and I have those conversations, and we will endeavour to do more. But we have a plan. About what we're going to do in the future, and the HRA business plan is part of contributing to a sustainable way forward in terms of providing a more permanent solution to our temporary housing problem. And that is a strategy in itself, and that's what the business plan is aiming to do.
Thank you. Julie's portfolio holder, is anything else for you to close?
Yeah, I think that last point is really well made. We know the demands on this authority in terms of funding temporary accommodation. With no plan to provide additional housing, we will see that bill going up and up and up, as we have done, and the pressure that puts on the general fund. So unless we've got a plan to deliver more housing, we're going to run into a very sticky situation with funding temporary accommodation. So I think we do have the right strategy, and it's been confirmed by external consultants that this is a viable plan, and I think we can't stress that enough.
Thank you. Then the recommended decisions are to note the social and affordable housing strategy and the implications for the City Council set out in this paper, we contend. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Philip. Thank you, Julie. Right, procurement strategy produced by Sam Preston. Councillor Mark Corey.
Thank you. And we do have Sam online if there are any specific questions. So thank you, Sam, for attending. I believe that our sort of strategy going forward is a straightforward update, a renewal to move with the times. We have decided not to go into a deeper partnership with the Essex procurement work that was going on, because we believe the interests of Colchester are best served staying local in the way that we have previously, but taking a number of updates that this paper talks to. The key updates that I want to just talk about is really taking on board more technology and AI analysis of the sort of procurement data we have, making the best of market value that's out there, best value for money, and ensuring our teams are best set up to do that. So to follow an up-to-date strategy, to be trained and coached into better finding, to find better deals when procuring. So a number of positives that update this strategy further to the time. As a speaker asked earlier, it continues to focus on localism as much as possible for the benefits of that and the social value of that, which is derived and checked each time we go out to procure. So for me, the report makes it clear that this is an improvement upon what we have, improving upon the skills of our officers, giving them a clear strategy, sharing it, sharing data more, using data to inform our processes going forward, using technology more readily, and therefore I thank the team who have produced it and recommend it to Cabinet.
Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Councillor Julie Young. Julie.
Yeah, I think this is a really important paper, and I'm glad to see it here. I just wanted to have a few words about social value. As a major purchaser in the city, we have a really important role in the economic well-being of the city, and we can use our purchasing power for social good. And I'm really heartened that we are focusing on social value. You know, in comparison, I did quite a lot of work at county when I was a county councillor, looking at their procurement strategy, and they have a different approach in terms of how they compare quality against cost. But I think our split is 60% quality, 40% cost. So the balance is absolutely as it should be on quality. And within that 60% quality, I think 20% is focused on social value. And that can incorporate a range of things, but it's about increasing the opportunities locally to have apprenticeships, for example, buying locally so it keeps the money within the city centre. And it's the way we can really use our purchasing power for the good of the people of Colchester. So I welcome the paper and very happy to support this leader.
Thank you. Any other from any other? Sam, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. So I won't go into too much detail around the policy. I think Mark's covered most of it really, but it is very much an emphasis around using data to our advantage, not only to get achieve best value for money, but also to make sure that we are compliant and that as an organisation we're following the correct procedures and doing things in the right way. There is an emphasis on social value, also on sustainability, but also a lot more around monitoring, performance monitoring, and how we'd like to improve that and provide more information. There is a strengthening around contract management, so we will be developing further procedures for the council around that and guidance. And as Mark said, a lot of training to go on throughout the organisation, which has already started. So hopefully you've started to see improvements with procurement, but that will continue further under this policy.
Sam, on behalf of all of us, thank you to you and your colleagues. It's great to see the paper. It's really good to see you from a distance, and thank you for making the time and joining us tonight. Colleagues, we have the recommended decision, which is to adopt the new procurement strategy. Do we so agree? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mark and colleagues. Okay, item 9.2, Mark, Councillor Corey, again for you. This is around the pay award for 25-26.
Thank you, Leader. So we have what we have budgeted for within our general fund for the pay going forward, but we have actually a slightly higher award that is being discussed and has been put to union members, and I have a positive steer that has I believe been accepted. We will confirm that I think in the morning, but we have, I think, a deal reached in line with the National Pay Award. So therefore, as the paper suggests, we'll be looking at 3.2% uplift in the way that negotiated nationally and agreed locally via union ballot and negotiation and conversation with our union. We therefore have to look to Anna and the team to understand the cost impact of that, which will mean a further impact on the baseline budget. And we have to then look at ways of compensating that and finding savings in year. A process we're already undertaking in order to close budget gaps. So this is a further pressure, but one we are aware of and have seen coming in the last few months. So this is something we do have to ensure we can cover, and we may need to look at ways of doing that across the cabinet, across the departments, and senior officers will help with that. So really it's about ensuring we pay our staff a fair wage. We have done through a number of different schemes, and we continue to pay fair wages, and this ensures that we are paying people in the right way. But actually in local government we are finding it very difficult in terms of acquiring officers, and at times we have to look at market supplements to bring in the best we can. And also with LGR causing more instability, we have to work even harder. So I thank Jess Douglas and the team who are incorporating the negotiations with the unions and the National Pay Award advice and getting to us what I believe is a successful point today where we can agree a pay award and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from colleagues? If not, then adding my thanks to yours, Mark, to the team, to Jess and to Head of Paid Service to our left. Pat, it's constant concern. Thank you for bringing out that point, which is in the marketplace. There are sometimes reasons, very good reasons, why we must pay supplements to secure the right kind of people. So the way to look at this, I think, is a core settlement, but it's great news that we've secured that, and with that the acknowledgement of the work and contribution of our staff, without whom nothing will happen. So thank you. The reason recommended decisions set out, and thank you for walking through that. Our decisions tonight are to agree to apply the uplift as described in 2.1 or 3.2% uplift from spinal points and all of that, and a pay award of 2.5% to acknowledge the additional pressure that provides and to ensure that we meet that in budgetary terms. So as described in 2.1 and 2.2, are we content? Agreed, thank you. That's very good news. In which case we go to the 40-minute curtain raiser for the new star of risk management oversight, at least. So Councillor Pearson. Chris, would you like to talk to item 10.1 and the paper from Hayley McGrath? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Interestingly, this has probably be the first time I've had a paper from Hayley McGrath that I haven't had the advantage of Hayley introducing, because it's usually been in my role as Chair of Governance and Audit. So I'll try to do my best. I know that Hayley is a hard act to follow. So in front of us, we've got half of the documentation of the agenda papers, but I don't propose to take half of the time to take you through it. Just to do a brief overview, obviously this is the 24-25 year-end review of risk management. You'll see that it's part of a comprehensive risk management process that is now embedded across the City Council. Has gone through a number of iterations. The Zurich risk management went before councillors as well for their contributions a while ago now, if I'm thinking. And both officers and councillors contributed to the appetite that the council has for management of risk. There are a number of areas that have been identified as being those areas that are of most concern in terms of managing and overseeing risk, and we've added devolution and local government reorganisation to that. Those are cyber and data security, organisational resilience, budget strategy, economic climate, workforce well-being, financial equality, corporate assets, and ICT infrastructure. The risk management paper that's before us this evening recently went through Governance and Audit Committee as well, so it's had full scrutiny from G&A. They're happy with it. They didn't make any suggestions for amendments to it. And anybody who wants to look at the scores on the doors in terms of our risk appetite can see all of that in the very comprehensive document that's appended from Zurich Risk, the Zurich Risk Survey. So you will see there were some slight variances between the appetite that councillors had for risk and the appetite that officers had for risk, but mostly they were fairly close, or they were next to one another. And in general speaking, we weren't totally risk averse, but we weren't eager to go down risky routes either. So most of the scores on the doors were in that midsection.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Jocelyn.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, Councillor Pearson. I think sort of we've been able to scrutinise this paper before, and I know that it's also gone through governance and audit, and I think we've already discussed about the business case for the HRA and sort of robust modelling and scrutinising of that process, and I think this is like further evidence really of the seriousness with which we take ensuring that the council is well run and that we've got robust procedures in place for effective running of the council, and also as well as with the HRA, members have been able to feed into this process, which again I think is really helpful. It means that all people feel that they've got a stake in it and can contribute, and I think that's really important. I'd like to thank officers for the work on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only thing I would add, having attended and always enjoyed the Hayley McGrath show, that she does so well, that some of the confidence that we have in the risk register inevitably rests upon her. and the fact that as a council we say, and in my experience we mean it, that we're up for challenge and check. And on page 3 of 1287 and 104, for those sad enough to even think about granting, of course, our Chief Exec, Pam, to my left, this is very personal. You sign off for this, Pam, don't you? Your endorsement. If those colleagues want to read it, it's very clear about a commitment which we know is followed through, and which I want to say to cabinet members around the table, all of us, it's our responsibility, whether it's Councillor Goss with his many irons in the fire, or others, we've got a responsibility and a role to play. So I for the record say, I encourage you, as I encourage myself, to make sure that we have those conversations at the right time. I've asked that we bring risk to leadership, which is our informal cabinet meeting with senior staff on a regular basis, so that we break out some time just to see what is shifting or moving. It's a spur for good decision. Good conversation is a spur for good decision making. We can't control all risks, as the papers show, don't they, Chris? But we can ensure that we're as alive to them as possible. Please, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one further point, that I think we have evolved our risk appetite due to this more in-depth work we have been doing, but also the economic headwinds, the global changes and dramas that we see quite on a daily basis, if not sort of even more frequent. We see ups and downs, and we have to react to them, and we are still suffering from some of the changes, whether it be constitutionally in this country or economically from America and beyond. And I want to just say clearly, as the portfolio holder in charge of finance, that we are less likely to enter into agreements, into investments, without absolutely addressing every risk indicator. We have reduced risk appetite. We are more risk averse. And I say that to make it clear to everybody. We are an ambitious council, but we are more risk averse because of the challenges we now face, because of a number of changes, whether that be at government level or global level. So we are more risk averse, and this is an important process. We will continue to evolve, and we've talked through the different ways in which we represent in reports. And I asked Hayley, and she agreed and has worked up some wording to further emphasise the risk appetite within each report, and to say that we are more risk averse, because that is important in such challenging times. So just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comment. Then we'll go to the recommendations, items 2.1, 2 and 3, which requires to consider and comment on progress and performance. On that, approve the current strategic risk register and approve the strategy for 25-26 and recommend it to full council. Do we agree? Great. Thank you, that's great. I should also note formally for the record our appreciation of the work of the Governance and Audit Committee and the report that captures what was a quality conversation in my view, so in depth of challenge and a good conclusion, Chris, as you observed. Now, subject to me missing things, which can happen at the end of the meeting, I'd go to item 11.1, which is the progress of responses to the public. Richard.
Thank you, Chair. This is your regular report on members of the public who've addressed committees and cabinets under the Have Your Say provisions, and it shows that they've all been dealt with, Chair, and there's nothing outstanding at this stage.
Thank you. Any other business for us that formally on the agenda?
There is no other business for you, Chair.
Okay. I feel a sort of sense of regret from the cabinet table that they can't stay longer in such good company. But on that basis, thank you seriously for a very productive meeting. Thank you to officers for helping prepare the papers to have that conversation in public and with each other. And good night.